today's class, we will be starting with swap. Now, swaps as the word or as the verbal meaning, there is swapping happening. Can you swap it for me? We normally use it, right? Can you swap your something which you have? Maybe, you know, we normally as teachers we do that. Can we swap your our first hour to first hour with my second hour? We teachers normally do that if we have some meeting or something. So swapping is exchanging of one asset for another. In this case, it is that. It can be in any way exchanging of one facility for other. Likewise, so or exchanging of maybe one item. Last week I happened to see a video about markets in Kashmir. Still they are going with the barter system, where on a day, every day in the morning, they have a I forgot the name of that marketplace. People come from different parts of the village, and they actually row in the small boats, and they come there, and what they do is they exchange. They are people who prefer leafy vegetables of largely. So they go with exchanging their vegetables, and no, one person might bring one type of vegetable and he exchange it for the other. Likewise, it happens over there for years. It had been decades they are going with this practice. So likewise, here in financial market also, for decades we are going with the concept of swaps. It had originated nearly around 1980s. Yes, definitely it has originated in the developed markets, but immediately, without much delay, it came into Indian markets also, where we are actually exchanging different financial products for the benefit of both the parties. Okay, with this introduction, we are going to discuss about swap. Now, first thing which I would like to say is swap is an agreement between parties, right? We have told about futures, where we said it is having a secondary market. There is an intermediary. There is a stock exchange, where the transactions happen. So we were talking about that, and we also said that option also happen in more or less similar condition. But with respect to swap, this is actually a agreement between parties, OTC, over the counter. It's a private agreement between parties to exchange sequence of cash flows for a set period of time. Yeah, it is exchanged for a set period of time. So the transactions happen, and what is happening here is they are coming into an agreement for the mutual benefit, but there is no intermediary, nor there are no other parties who will be directly regulating their transaction. And I said it had its origin in 1980s as a risk management tool, and in 1984 the first established, there were minor before that also, but the first established swap contract said to happen between ONGC and a consortium of foreign banks with respect to fund denominated in different currencies. So that is said to be the first transaction that has happened, literally the first transaction following the norms and regulations. Okay, so it's an agreement between parties. Now what is happening? Exchange of sequence of two cash flows. We are going with the types of swaps, so you will know what will be the nature of those cash flows, right? Now, terminologies which you have to understand before we go with the detailed discussion about swaps. First one is counterparties. Counterparties is the two parties who enter into a contract. That is same for both swaps, futures, options. For all derivative instruments, there is counterparties. Then legs. This is something which you have to understand when we are discussing from the concept of swap. Leg is cash flows. Legs cash flows. Maybe it is the payment that happens between the buyer and the seller, between the no, two counterparties. So that cash flow we normally refer it to as leg. Tenor is the period of the contract, maybe 1 year, 6 months, right? It depends upon how they have entered into agreement. Swap rate is the reference rate. I have put an example. Say, for example, if it is interest rate, they might say fixed interest 9% for floating rate of LIBOR plus 2%. LIBOR is lender interbank offer rate. So normally, now the situation has changed. Earlier, all of it were based on LIBOR. Now it's not like that. The situation as such has changed. Some of it is not going with LIBOR. They have established their own system for fixing the interest rate, incorporating few major currencies, not only looking into London interbank offer rate, right? So this is an example of swap rate where they say that yes, 9% fixed rate for there is a floating rate which depends upon the fluctuation in LIBOR rates. Okay, so if LIBOR rate is 5%, it will be 5 plus 2, 7%. Right, so that is actually an exchange. Then swap facilitator, because these transactions are privately happening between the parties, sometimes people may not know each other. In such a case, there would be now, as such, in the market, there are different facilitators, or as we call swap companies, who have been established for this purpose, for exchanging, for arranging agreement, or maybe for identifying the real partners, because I might be having a need which may not be known to the other party. So there should be somebody who is looking for people who is in the opposite need, who can be matched with me. So that is actually the duty of a swap facilitator. And we have swap brokers, for facilitating the transactions. They act as an intermediary. Since there are no other intermediary, there is no secondary market, these swap brokers as well as dealers, they act as intermediary for the conduct of the transaction, right? Maybe for drafting of agreements, for ensuring that both the parties are keeping there is no counterparty default. Yes, there are chances that the risk also with swap is that there is counterparty risk, but these swap brokers and as dealers, they ensure that the deal is happening between right partners, and they also look into the credibility of different parties who enter into these transactions, so that they can go with ensuring the conduct of this agreement. All right, some of the terminologies that will be coming when we go with the swap. All right, then the next one, there is an agency, ISDA. ISDA is International Swaps and Derivative Associations, and it was established way back in 1985, headquartered in New York. And here, the primary purpose of this association was to ensure safer trading environment for derivative instruments. That was the primary duty. But as the market established, as more and more players came into the market, as much of it was very much interesting to financial institutions. So the role played by ISDA is expanded to reducing the counterparty risk through coming up with different regulations from time to time, different guidelines from time to time. You can visit their site and know in detail about that. They have a site, full-fledged site, which talks about what are the responsibilities. They have published various articles that are connected with how to ensure transparency in derivative trading, all these, right? So basically, they want to reduce the counterparty risk, that is the risk of defaulting payment, and also for ensuring transparency in the transaction, because since this is happening between two parties, it's not mandatory that it needs to be published. But the credibility of a derivative agreement, the popularity of a derivative instrument as a financial instrument depends upon how far it is exercised with more or less in a standardized way. That responsibility in an international or in a global review is vested with International Swaps and Derivative Association. And of course, now there are more than 75 countries who are partners with that, including our country. And of course, there are many financial institutions, more than 1,000 financial institutions who are permanent members to this association. Those are the financial institutions who are engaged in derivative trading on a regular basis in the global scenario. So you can just visit the site, get more details about what are their operations. But primarily, they are looking into how to increase the popularity of derivative instrument as a financial opportunity. And they also ensure that yes, the most popular ones are interest rate swaps and currency swaps. At the same time, what we have to understand here is there are other types of swaps like CDS, which became very popular during the crisis of 2007. Lehman Brothers, they had a steep fall because of, and it is said so. The reporters have reported that the main fall came from exotic derivative instruments which were formulated between different financial institutions in United States of America. One such was credit default swap. So such instruments, different exotic instruments are also there, whose rules and guidelines are brief, are defined by the people who enter into, parties who enter into trade, because basically there are no such guidelines that say that this can be done or this cannot be done. Only guidelines are there to ensure the conduct of this trade. So anyone can design it according to their need. That is supposed to be, since this happened in a private platform, the customization happens to be the merit and demerit of this financial instrument. Now, going with one by one, interest rate swap. It is an agreement to swap the interest rate.
Miss,
Yeah.
Miss can't see the slide.
Okay, 1 second. I'll just. Can you now? No, I will.
No, Miss.
Okay, I will present it once more. Thank you, Efren. Yes. Can you see now?
Yes, Miss.
Thank you, Efren. So yes, we were discussing about different types of swaps. That as we say, we can go with discussion about the first one is interest rate swap. As the name indicates, it's actually an agreement to swap different types of cash flows which are connected with a debt, or as you say, it can be an asset or a liability. Maybe it is a loan, or maybe it is a loan given by you or loan taken by you. So it's for you to swap it. It can be, swapping generally happens between a fixed flow cash flow and a floating cash flow. So underlying asset is the interest bearing. Or you're not going with, sometimes you go with discussion about the principal amount, or sometimes only the net amount is transferred between the parties, but the primary interest here in this kind of instrument would be interest rate. Interest rate, it can be generating or it can be the one which you have to give, right? And when you're going with swaps, the aspect here that would be exchanged between parties can be the interest and the principal that can be denominated in different currencies. You might be like, no, only you're giving a loan in a particular currency, denominated in a particular currency. Maybe you are in need of dollar, and the other party who enter into a transaction is in need of Indian rupee. maybe no, he has engaged in transaction with an Indian trader, and the payment is agreed to be paid on INR. So in that case, he's in need of INR, and you are in need of dollar because you have imported machinery from a foreign country, which is to be paid in dollar. So here in this case, maybe the interest and principal, or maybe the principal alone in a foreign currency. It can be in same currency or it can be in a different currency, as I said the example. Now in the said example, two currencies involved were in INR, Indian rupee, as well as US dollars. Right. So maybe you fix an amount, you fix that it needs to be 40 million, and then 40 million being paid to each the party, to the party who requires INR equivalent value is being fixed. So maybe here in this case, you have to make one currency as the reference. That's where we said in the previous one currency would be the reference, and based on that, the value of other currency will be fixed. That is, it happens as an agreement between the parties. Sometimes it might be fixed on the basis of dollar or dollar value, like how much is it. Now, if you say $1 is equal to 72, that can be the rate at which you fix, or that's not going to change. That's not going to change for the entire period. Only thing is that your interest payment and the other would be referring to the changes that has happened now. Maybe at the time of repayment, you will have to pay this 40 million in Indian rupees based on the current prevailing rate. If rupee is appreciated, in that case, you might be at a loss. If your rupee has depreciated, yes, the person from United States can be at a profit. So it depends on the type of currency. But what we have to understand is currency, different maybe debt or loan or cash flow denominated in different currency or same currency are being exchanged, swapped in such a contract. Now, equity swap is the earning from different types of equity instruments, maybe from index, maybe from stock, are swapped between the parties. Credit default swap, that's something it's otherwise called as CDS. What you have to understand is default is the one which is swapped over there. Yeah, one party, say I purchase I purchase the right from you by paying your fees, saying that in case if my debtor default, okay, the party B, if I purchase the right from party B will step in to compensate for my loss that has occurred because of the default of my debtor. Okay. That is it. That is, in case of default, I have made an agreement with another party to step in to compensate for my loss at a fees. Simply, somebody will not agree to help me during my default. And there are many conditions that they will be evaluating. What is a percentage of default? Likewise, they would be evaluating before entering into a contract with me. But credit default swap is an agreement to compensate for the loss that can occur at the time of default of a loan or maybe a debt. Right? So that's those instruments are called as CDS. Then there is something called as commodity swaps. That's something which you have to understand is the value is fixed on the price or maybe at the price at which some commodity that is being traded in the market. Say, for example, I am going to fix the swap of one commodity for another based on the value that is prevailing in the market. So here the value of the currency is the base for agreeing to transfer between. Maybe I enter into a transaction with a farmer to supply me with 10 kgs or maybe 10 tons of wheat for so and so price. So what happens then? Because maybe I am a company who is into manufacturing of atta, right? So I want wheat. So I have entered into an agreement with a party to exchange that at a predetermined rate. That is swap, but sometimes only the cash payment happens. Sometimes there is the settlement happens by transferring the whole time. So commodity swaps, the basic idea behind fixing the reference price is the price of the commodity, right? And debt equity is debt to equity. I'm swapping debt to equity. I'm giving you debt and buying you equity, ownership from you. That is debt equity swaps. Option embedded swap means right to exercise is embedded into a swap with one party. So suppose if I am the buyer of the right, I can decide whether to exercise it or not. So that's the basic nature of option. When that feature is embedded, is included in an instrument, that will be called as option and embedded swap. That is, one party will be having the right to decide whether to exercise or not. And if that party decide that I'm not going to act, that right is not given at free of cost. That right is given with some kind of fee, which is paid at the beginning, right? So what is the party who's entering, who's purchasing that right enjoys? Less risk. Maximum he can have a loss of that premium amount which he has paid while purchasing the right. So that is the benefit. The same thing is happening in the option market also. So if I'm purchasing that right, I have the deciding power to either conduct the agreement, either exercise the agreement or not to. And I get that right by paying a premium. If I decide that I'm not going to exercise because it is a huge loss, there was a huge loss in the value of the asset. If I exercise, then I can exit. But what I lost would be the premium which I've already paid for the person who had given me the right, the other party, the counterparty, the seller. So he will be having the benefit for the seller is the premium amount which I have paid at the beginning, even if I exit without exercising the contract. Such rights, when it is embedded in a swap, that is called as option embedded swaps, right? So these are the broad kind of swaps, but I again repeat that the most popular ones are those that is happening between financial institutions with respect to interest rate swaps and currency rate swaps. Okay, currency swaps. Now going with yeah, types of interest rate swaps. When we look into the market, the different types of interest rate can be fixed for floating rate in currency. Say for example, I'm going to maybe State Bank of India is going to enter into a swap with maybe Andhra Bank or no Union Bank. Okay, with Union Bank, and they have decided that they will go with INR itself. They are just transferring their fixed interest to floating rate because SBI is expecting that there can be a fall in the fixed rate. Okay, fall in the fixed interest rate. We are talking about the liability of the bank. Okay, with respect to liability, and maybe Union Bank who is agreed to enter into the contract. I expect that it's better that you go with the fixed rate because the interest rate can go up higher than that in future. So enter into a contract where SBI, the currency remains same, INR. So SBI is promised with a floating rate, whatever prevailing in the market at the time of exercising, right? Maybe they have put it as LIBOR plus 2% or whatever prevailing. They can decide what is actually the rate for them. And with respect to Union Bank, maybe the interest rate, what is prevailing, if it is 8%, yes, that's it. So they are swapping it. And if on the exercise date, if the actual has become like it has increased to 10%, right? So the difference of 2% will have to be paid by the bank. In this case, SBI has exchanged, for the fixed to Union Bank, and Union Bank has agreed to pay as per the fixed rate, and SBI has agreed as per the floating rate. So floating rate has increased to 10%. So naturally that difference will be paid by SBI to Union Bank. So that is how it happens with respect to same currency. Now, if it is between two banks, maybe one from India, another from a different country. They might enter into same transaction, but using different currency denomination. So that can happen. Or maybe I find that loan from US is much cheaper than getting it here. The interest rates are much cheaper. So it is not possible for me to get interest from US so easily. But there are companies who are willing to swap the right, companies in United States who are willing to swap the right to me. Right. In that case, I can come into an agreement with them. Maybe I can fix that in US and INR, or I can, when that happens in US and INR, that's what we call as, no, different currencies. So it can be fixed to floating in different currencies, then floating to floating, maybe floating to floating that in different currency denomination or same currency denomination. Now you might ask, why is that needed, floating to floating in same currency? Maybe both want to take the comparative advantage. Sometimes some of the financial institutions will get, because of the credibility, they might get their loan at a comfortable rate, but that may not be applicable to the other assets. So firms who are having comfortable with their other, there was some connection problem. Okay. So these are the different types of interest rate swap. That is basically looking into the need of each of the party. I'm going to explain that with an example. Okay. First, just try to understand the theory. I will explain that in detail with different examples. Okay. Now the next one which we would be discussing is this is another way of looking at it. Plain vanilla swaps, where you are saying that you are actually exchanging between fixed and floating. So plain vanilla swap talks about the same concept where you are in interest rate swaps itself, where you are exchanging fixed to a floating interest rate. It is otherwise called as plain vanilla swaps. Then zero coupon swap, here you don't, because normally there is occasional settlement between the parties that happen during the time. Okay, during the conduct of that, during the valid period, during the tenure of that agreement. But sometimes the payment, the final settlement has happened only in lump sum at the end of the agreement. In that case, that will be called as zero coupon swap. In between, there is no settlement. It is all taken, all the adjustments, all the differences are considered in lump sum at the end. So such type of interest rate swaps will be called as lump sum settlement one. And alternative floating rate swaps, where you might have taken certain benchmarks like London interbank offer rate or Mumbai interbank over rate, and in between you would be swapping upon the decision which you have agreed at the beginning. So you are not sticking to one, but you would be, because they know how market will be moving, how LIBOR rates would be moving in a particular season, and how it is different when it comes to maybe after 5 months or 6 months when the country is facing another season, maybe harvest season, or maybe towards the year end. So they know how that will be moving. So in order to match the condition, they might have decided that we are going with different interest rates, alternative benchmarks in between. If that is the case, then that will be called as alternative floating rate swap. Like for some first 3 months, we will go with LIBOR. Next 2 months, we will go with any Mumbai interbank offer rate. That's already fixed, right? That's fixed. There is clarity, but there would be more than one rates in between which would be taken care, or maybe average of these two just to reflect the actual condition. In that case, that will be called as alternative floating rate swap. And forward and deferred swap, as the name indicates, it is deferred to a future rate. Future, the swap as such, the agreement they might have entered in maybe 1st of June, but the actual agreement, the tenure of the agreement comes only by December 1st. So it is deferred, they've entered, but the actual date is deferred. It can happen after entering into the agreement or at the time of agreement itself. Such types are called as deferred swap. So these are also different names of interest rate swap. In fact, plain vanilla swaps are very popular because that's like little very specific and less confusing for anyone to enter into. So banks, the financial institutions, they do a lot of plain vanilla swaps to actually transfer the risk associated with, or to take the benefit of interest rate fluctuations in different markets. So that is, these are different names that are equally applicable to interest rate swaps. Now I'm just going to explain this with an example. Just listen to me very carefully. See, now we are taking up the condition I've just drawn. It's a diagrammatic representation, so that will give you a better idea of how this happens. See, for example, here you have company A and company B. Now, company A expects that interest rate may fall, right? So they are willing to, that is their expectation. If not for making profit, companies will not have done that. And for company B, they expect that the LIBOR, they have only floating rate available with them. For them, they could not have, because it depends upon your credit rating score. For some, it may be that they got the loan at fixed rate. Maybe if you are a reputed firm, you are going to get a floating rate. Maybe you will get a fixed rate also. If your credibility score, if your credit score is high, you might be able to avail both fixed and floating. But if your risk is too high, normally financial institutions will go with suggesting a fixed rate because of your credit score. Now, in this case, A is having only a fixed rate of 6%. And company B, they are having a debt with which is carrying a floating rate, and the floating rate is fixed like this, LIBOR plus 1%. That's how it happens. So, and these people, company B expect that the LIBOR rate is going to increase. So if the LIBOR rate is going to increase, might be they will have to pay huge amount for their debt. right? See, now the LIBOR rate is say 5%. They expect that it might go up to 7%. In that case, the company will have to pay 8%. That is 7 LIBOR plus 1, 8%. So that's too expensive for them. But company A is having a different expectation where they expect that the fixed rate might fall because of the slack season in the economy. So they are exchanging that. This is actually a plain vanilla swap, okay, where you are exchanging plain vanilla interest rate swap. Company A, right, they are giving the the fixed rate to B, and company B, they are giving this one to this floating rate to A. So company A is trying to reduce their fixed burden of 6% to company B, and company B, they are going to reduce their fear of increased interest rate to company A. This is something called as plain vanilla interest rate swap. Now you know that LIBOR, as I said, it is lender in the back offered rate. But now actually in the economy, if you look, rather than LIBOR, there are other methodologies that are being followed by the firms to make the interest rate representative of the actual economic scenario, depending on the particular country, right? Now, another example, okay? I'm just going with not only the interest, but I am looking at different currency as well as the principal and interest. So this is a continuous. This is step one, okay? Now, both of them have fixed an exchange of 50 million. There is the contract is happening between company C, that is a US-based company, and company D, that is a European-based company. The trade is happening between these two, okay? And company C is in need of euro. Company D is in need of dollar. And so what they have done is they have fixed that we are going to fix the lump sum principal as 50 million. Okay. Now, in this situation, what happens here is euro is having higher value than dollar. So they when equalized, when 50 million equalized to euro, they have to pay only 40 million in euro. 50 million in dollars when equalized, because it is having higher value. So what they are going to do is they are paying 40 million euros to company C. Okay, because they are in need. So the principal amount is 50 million, right? But when they equalized, what they are doing is they are paying 40 million euros to company C, and of course they will have to go with 50 million dollars itself, right? See, as we say, no, one rupee is equal to no, $1 is equal to 72 rupees. So likewise here, when they are looking at $50 million is equal to $50 million million euros, because euros are much valuer than, in this particular situation, okay, valuer than the dollars. So they paid 40 million. So this is principal amount being paid. They are in need of money, right? They want, suppose maybe this US based company is having a transaction between, is having a trade between some of the European company, and they want to make the payment in maybe in euros. So they took the loan. They took the loan from this European based company in euros. Same, the European company is in need of dollars. Maybe they having business with a company from United States. So they took the amount in dollar. So this is the first stage of your transaction in a swap. Okay. Now, currency swap. So this is currency swap happening between two denominated currency, euro and dollar. Right. Now we are going further. The second stage. What happens here is these companies will have to, because they've taken a loan, 40 million in euro and 50 million in dollars, right? So they have to pay interest. Now the company which has taken euro, they have to pay interest rate at for euro, interest rate at euro itself, on a euro rate. What is the prevailing interest rate that is in the market, in the European market. They have to pay that. Also they will specify which is the interest rate they will be looking at. They will specify in the contract itself. So they will have to pay interest rate in euros based on the prevailing interest rate in the European country, whichever the country that was the company is located at. And then the opposite happens, that is the interest for the European company, they have to pay interest in dollars at the rate prevailing in United States. So that's it. That is, you have taken 40 million, the US based company, they have taken 40 million loan in euros. So the interest rate needs to happen in euro, and also at the rate prevailing in the, say for example, if 8% is prevailing in European market, at 8%, they have to pay it. And for dollars, maybe if it is 4% prevailing in United States, they will have to pay at 4%. Because in United States, normally the interest rates are very low. So that's it. They have to pay that at 4% or 4.5%. So that's the second stage. Okay. Now, the third stage is they have to give it back, repaying the principal amount. They are repaying the principal amount, 40 million in euros to the European-based company, and US-based and the European-based company, they are paying $50 million to the company in United States in dollars. But what you have to remember is these things can happen in different ways. Suppose if the entire setting is done at the end of the period, the lump sum, the adjustments, because each of this will depend upon the value of euro and dollar. If value of euro appreciates, definitely this company D is going to benefit. If value of dollar appreciates, company C is going to benefit. So they can make the payment depending upon the situation, either at the end, at the expiry date. Maybe if you keep the expiry date as 1 year, maybe at the expiry date, or in between, they can make. When we say that it is at the end, that is what we call as the lump sum, the initial method which we said, no? Here, we said, lump sum settlement, zero coupon. In between, you're not paying the interest. But if you are paying it, if you are settling it, then that is called as plain vanilla swap. So you can skip the payment towards the end, or you can either, as you say, you can skip the payment towards the end, or in between you can pay the interest. So in between, if you're paying, that will be plain vanilla. There is no confusion in that. And that payment is based on the interest prevailing in the market. So how does these companies benefit from this? It all depends upon they are transferring the risk due to the changes in currency under different denominations. So I just repeat the process. This is what we call as the concept of swap. And in this case, this is currency. This can be debt to equity based on two currencies or based on same currency. This can be, as you say, just supply of currency itself. There is no interest element in that, supply of currency itself. Or this can be as you are taking up the return that is associated with equity index or equity stock. But there is an exchange that is happening between two parties, right? This is the basic logic in every swap contract. Now, I'm just going to explain. As initially, they fix the total amount to be transferred between the parties as 50 million. Then they took the currency value and found that euro is value, that this particular time euro is valued more than dollar. In that case, what happened here is 50 million being paid to in dollars to the European company, and equal amount equal to 50 million in euros that is paid to company C. And then interest rate in euros is paid to European company at the prevailing rate of interest, right? And here interest in dollars is paid at the prevailing rate in the country to US based company. And finally, the principal amount is returned. So the currency fluctuation is actually hedged, or it's managed, or it is transferred between the parties. So this is actually the primary concept of mechanism of swaps when we talk from the perspective of currency and interest rate. Now, if you do not want a lump sum, you just exchange your interest alone. This can be the case. This is actually swap of interest between two parties under different denomination, one in euro, another in dollar. That's the concept of swap, right? Now, now we are looking at why should a company, some of it we already said, why should a company go with swap? The first one is hedging. As we saw here, hedging is happening. They are in need of a particular currency and they want to hedge the risk of currency movement, foreign exchange risk. They want to hedge that, the exchange risk that can happen depending upon the value of both the currencies. So that's what they did. And maybe to overcome the asset, that's what I said, asset liability mismatch. Sometimes, no, you might feel that you are earning interest of 10%, right? You are earning interest of 10% for a particular loan given, a financial institution, okay, for a loan given by you, but you are paying 15% or 70% for your deposits. The same money when when you got it as a deposit, so your interest paid is higher. When we look at the spread, your interest paid is higher than the interest received. So there is an asset liability mismatch and you want to take away that condition. So what you can do is either you can swap your interest earned or interest paid with some other party who is having a different idea. So you want to reduce your asset liability mismatch by swapping one of this component or both of this component with different parties. Normally what they do is they will swap one of this component to minimize the asset liability mismatch, and then reduce funding costs, because some companies, say for example now most of our multinational corporations, if they have every possibility to borrow from developed markets, the interest rates are pretty lower than what it is here in India. So they might take loan from some of the European markets or maybe from US markets. So you get an opportunity to get fund at a lesser cost through swaps, right? You get the debt at a lesser cost, so that can be a benefit. Maybe the other party does not have a venture to park the money. Since the interest rates are very low in their country, they are in a comparative advantageous position when they lend to a country where the interest rates are very high, right? So they get an opportunity to park their money. So that is actually what we call as funding cost can be reduced. Companies can procure the fund at a lesser cost. And of course, that will help you to access different markets. Previously, when you had only an opportunity to borrow from India, you were in scarce, you were in need of money. Now, when we are looking into a financial market where we have every possibility to borrow from, of course, the government of India has imposed restrictions on to what extent you can borrow, to what extent you can invest, all that. But still, keeping all the regulations in place, we get an additional opportunity to access a different market, which was not possible previously when we did not have such instruments in place, right? So that again is another benefit of these swaps. And of course, arbitrage opportunity is what it is because of the fluctuation in the price of asset in different markets or in different situations. Maybe when you look at your condition, short term and long term, or maybe two different markets or two different types of instruments, if you find that there is differences in the price, that give the investors to take up arbitrage opportunity or speculative opportunities. That is again another advantage or economic motive of swap. So in a nutshell, what we have to say is, as the word indicates, swap means we are transferring. We are transferring our right with each other. There are two parties in that. In that, we are transferring something in between. It's like a barter system, right? It can be the interest, underlying interest, or it can be the concept of you are swapping currencies denominated two different currencies, right? Two different denominations of currencies, or it can be the same denomination, but your expectations are different. One can expect that it is going to increase or decrease. So you are just swapping it just to hedge against the fluctuation in price. So that is all about swap. But what is the main difference here is it is a customized transaction that is happening between two private parties. So the rules, the primary rules remain same, but how you draft your agreement depends on concerned parties who enter into a transaction. So it varies from party to party. That itself is the major problem which is faced with respect to this derivative instrument called swap. You can draft your agreement as you want, as complicated as possible, so that will create some kind of calamity in the financial markets. Even though the system has changed, now it has become more or less transparent, but still there are areas, nook and corner, which requires yet more guidelines. And maybe swaps are just popular with interest rate and as you call currency, but there are other types of swaps which could be used, which are not so popular yet. So all these factors can be considered when we look swap as a derivative instrument. And then we discussed about different types of swaps, like interest rate swaps, equity swaps, then currency swaps, it all debt to equity swaps, or as we said, credit default swaps. All these are based on what you exchange between the parties. Interest rate swap itself, there can be variations into that, like when you swap fixed to floating in same currency, or fixed to fixed in different currency. Normally that is very rare, as I said in the beginning. Floating to floating in different currencies, fixed to floating in different and same currency. So these are the variations to swaps. And we also discussed about what are the economic benefits of swap as a derivative instrument, right?